Listen, that Jeffrey Epstein story is a big deal. Please do not let that story go. Keep your eye on this. There are a lot of people who are knee-deep in the Washington swamp who are not telling you the truth about serious allegations out there that Epstein may have had video and audio of people out there doing things they shouldn't have been doing. And you should be asking yourself the question, how is it that all these people, the CIA director, the Obama fixer, Bill Clinton, all intersected paths with Jeffrey Epstein? Jeffrey Epstein isn't with us anymore, and nobody seems to want to talk about it.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to get, I've seen the whole file. He killed himself.
Bongino says, no, it's okay, I've seen the files. Oh, well, that puts my heart at ease.
Totally, yeah.
Okay, as long as you saw them. You can't just say, trust me, bro. No, we don't trust you. We on the left don't trust you, and even your brothers on the right don't trust you, all right? Nor should they trust you. This whole don't worry about it is not gonna fly at all with anyone.
Especially as you're sweating bullets.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, he's okay. No, we are sure that he committed suicide, and it was not Mossad. I mean, we're sure. Yeah, okay, yeah, whatever, dude.
At this point, it is just simply insulting all around that the Trump Department of Justice would think we are this stupid to believe them and to trust them without question. I don't know what they were expecting, but I'm making this video because at this point, everything they've said is a lie, and I'm going to be debunking a lot of their lies right here. This is going to be the only video you wind up needing to fully understand that Epstein did not hang himself. And curse you, Department of Justice, for forcing me to agree with the Young Turks. All right, first and foremost, I want to give a shout out to this guy right here. I'm going to be using a lot of his criteria, a lot of his material on this video. Adam Cochran. He's gone through and posted all of the photos that I need from this 10-hour video that they released. And it all honestly starts with this camera perspective, because as it turns out, you would expect with the camera perspective that they gave you that one of these doors would have been Epstein's cell door, but it's not. It's not. Neither of these doors lead to Jeffrey Epstein's cell. Not even close, as it turns out. Jeffrey Epstein's cell door is in the highlighted area there, all the way on the other side, down the stairs to the left, on the other side of this railing, and to the right from there down a hall. From a better perspective, this is what it looks like right here. This bottom red circle is our point of view from the camera. The top red circle is a station where a guard is placed and sitting, and that guard actually has the point of view of Jeffrey Epstein's cell door. So the camera angle that they've given us to work with here, where they said, yeah, nothing happened. It's really boring. Nobody on the camera can be seen going into his cell. Well, of course not. Of course they can't be seen going into his cell. It's blocked footage. But this gets a lot deeper than this. Because even despite the deliberately terrible camera angle that's provided to us, there were a series of shady things that happened all throughout the night where Jeffrey Epstein wound up dying. To make matters even worse, some of the footage is blatantly missing. From August 9th to August 10th, by the way, August 9th was the last day Jeffrey Epstein was spotted alive. He was discovered dead in his cell August 10th at around 6:30 a.m., according to reports. From August 9th at 11:58 p.m., there's a whole missing minute. Take a look at this. Look at the timestamp on the bottom left. 56, 57, 58, and midnight. So a minute and 1 second, completely missing. The next major problem with the reporting is right here. According to this report, at approximately 8 p.m. on August 9th, all SHU inmates, including Jeffrey Epstein, were locked in their cells for the evening. This means they were locked in there for good, time to go to sleep and wake up the next morning at 6:30 a.m. for breakfast. Unfortunately, timestamps have shown that that is not the case. Inmates can be seen walking around 8:16 p.m. and 8:23 p.m. Some very inconsistent reporting here, not the kind of reporting you would expect at a professional level. And then there's this. This is actually incredibly troubling footage right here. And at first you might be thinking, I don't see anything. What? It's just it's nothing. It's not nothing. Notice to the very left of the screen, you see some figure, a guard of some sort, walking up the stairs. But even more importantly, what is under the door of 46 right here? That is some sort of paper slid under the crack of the door. Why would that be? Notice the guard, he notices it. It's slid under the door even more. What's going on there? Why is paperwork being slid under a door? And this is not a door that leads to a cell, mind you. To make matters even more suspicious, this moment was not outlined in any report where they documented their procedures. It could be some sort of standard comms protocol, perhaps, but it's not documented. Why is that? This is the next most important thing to be looking at here. This guy right here. This is the laundry man, I guess is what you would call him. He seems to be the guy that's in charge of all the linens, the prison laundry, etc., etc. You can see he's doing work at around midnight, August 10th. A few minutes, by the way. See, now that's interesting. Timestamped at 12:05 a.m. midnight. This is less than 6 minutes after that 1 minute jump in the camera in the missing footage. He's coming outside of door 46, and he's dragging a bag of linens, it looks like. And you can see he's disposing of the linens in a hamper or something like that. But there's a big problem with what happens here, apparently, because after he leaves, the trash can has been moved over to the right, which blocks more of the stairwell that's below the railing there, making it easier for someone to sneak past and head into the L wing where Jeffrey Epstein's cell was. Keep in mind, like I said, Jeffrey Epstein's cell is not either of these two doors. It is over that railing and down around to the right. So we actually have no actual direct footage of the cell door of Jeffrey Epstein. Notice again, it's subtle. It's very subtle. The difference in trash can position, but it's an empty trash can. Why did he move it? Now, this could be nothing at all, but it certainly is very suspicious. 5:38 a.m. Jeffrey Epstein likely is already dead, but we can't be certain of that. This is a man in a hoodie. His identity is completely concealed. We don't know what he is. He's an unknown character, and he is making a phone call on August 10th. And then 12 minutes later, he reemerges from door 46 once again, wearing boots. I'm not sure if those are gloves. It almost looks like he's got gloves on, but you can't see for sure. But boots for sure and a hoodie. Was this guy deliberately wearing a hoodie like this to conceal his identity because he knew that this camera was going to be the only camera that wound up working still? I find it very unusual that someone in a prison like this working would be wearing a hoodie like this with boots and acting so suspiciously almost. It's very off-putting. It's not normal. You know, with the security guards, you can see what they look like. You can see who they are. But then all of a sudden with this guy, it's like, who is this? Who is this? Why is he dressed like this in a prison? Does he work here? What is going on? And not to mention the timestamp, once again, this is at 5:50 a.m. Just 40 minutes later, they would discover Epstein dead in his cell. This is the next biggest problem with the investigation in the Epstein death. There are multiple conflicting reports on when Epstein was locked down for the evening. This report specifically stating that at 6:45 p.m., Epstein left the attorney conference room after speaking with his attorney. At approximately 7 p.m., contrary to BOP policy, but with the permission of a unit manager, Epstein is permitted to place an unmonitored telephone call to a number with a New York City area code, purportedly to speak with his mother. But in actuality, Epstein speaks with someone with whom he allegedly has a personal relationship. After the call, he is returned to his cell where he remains without a cellmate. And so it says he's returned to his cell right around 7:19 p.m. However, this report conflicts that one. Epstein was housed from the common area of the SHU between approximately 10:40 p.m. on August 9th and approximately 6:30 a.m. August 10th. So they can't even get the reporting straight here. The investigation is conflicting. And worse yet, this goes against the official report that all the inmates were locked down at around 8 p.m., yet for some reason, Epstein was permitted to stay outside of his cell until around 10:40 p.m., if this report is to be believed, that is. And when you go back to the original statement at the time of Jeffrey Epstein's death, it claimed that in this video that they're now finally showing us, this inmate right here in the circle is Jeffrey Epstein himself. He has white hair, he looks to be older, and it's at 7:40 p.m. But what happens exactly at 10:40 p.m.? This is where it gets fascinating. You don't get to see too much of it. I'm going to super zoom in if possible. But frame by frame, you absolutely can see first empty stairs and then an orange blur, as if someone might be trying to move very quickly around that corner where the stairs are that lead to the L wing, where Jeffrey Epstein's cell is the first one to the right. And then you see more of an orange blur, very visible orange sleeve at the top of the stairs. And this is at 10:39 p.m. Again, inmates are supposed to be all locked down at this time. They're supposed to have been locked down 2.5 hours ago. And now for a disturbing picture. This is a photo of Epstein's cell taken after they obviously removed his body after his death. There is an obscene amount of linens in his cell. much more than what is necessary. Tons of them. Even in the report, they say they find Epstein hung using an excessive amount of linens. And that's right here. I mean, it's just stuff thrown around. You can see it wrapped around the bed, the ladder up to the bunk. This is an important photo right here as well, because he had another viable option. He had reportedly a CPAP machine in his cell, and he elected to not use the cords from the CPAP machine to try to hang himself that way. He elected to use an obscene amount of linens. Like, there are far too many linens in this cell for it to be normal. And this is how he did it, apparently, was right here, looping one of the torn linens through a hole in the support beam of the bunk. This page here, Adam Cochran, has a funny thing circled. It actually is a clever thing to circle because it's odd. It's a bottle of pills. And the bottle of pills, they haven't touched anything yet because this is an investigation. And this is just after they found his dead body. And this bottle of pills is standing upright on the bunk, not knocked over at all. This large circle is apparently where Epstein hung himself using a torn linen and hanging himself just 1 inch above the ground. When it comes down to all of the evidence that has now been provided to us by the FBI themselves, there are a few key questions that you just simply have to ask here, that wind up ultimately giving you answers that conflict everything that Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Attorney General Pam Bondi are now telling us. Questions like, why are guards seen roaming around the prison all throughout the evening where there doesn't appear to be any multi-hour span in which they aren't seen walking around, despite reports saying that the guards fell asleep for hours at a time on the evening that Epstein supposedly hung himself? Not only that, but why, like in this photo here and in several other instances, are particular guards seen walking through and staring at the security camera that wound up being the only one that worked that evening? And speaking of guards, logically the next question to ask is, what is going on in this scenario right here? What is that paperwork that's being slid under the door for this guard to look at? What was written on that paperwork? Who is that guard? And why wasn't this moment listed in the investigation as standard procedure for the prison? Most startlingly, why was all of this excessive orange linen in Epstein's cell? For what purpose was it put there? Bringing us to the laundryman. Who is this guy? Why does the timing so coincidentally line up with him disposing of these linens in a hamper, presumably, just 5 minutes after our missing 1 minute gap in security camera footage? That just seems too good to be true, doesn't it? And finally, at 5:38 a.m. in this prison, wearing a full hoodie with boots and possibly gloves, who is this guy who's not documented making a phone call? And what was the phone call about? And I'd like to think that all of these questions have already been asked, that extensive investigations have been carried out by the FBI and recarried out as soon as Kash Patel and Dan Bongino got in. But it's becoming more and more clear that they have been intentionally careless with all of this. I do not believe for one single second that Epstein killed himself. I believe that there's a lot more going on here than what they want you to know. And I think at the end of the day, it's wise to take the advice from Dan Bongino in 2023. If you're a true American patriot, you cannot let this go. This is an injustice, and we demand justice. We cannot let this turn into another JFK file scenario where we have to wait 40 or 50 years so that everybody who's on that client list that we know for sure exists, despite what they tell us, has died and doesn't have to face the consequences later. We, the people, must hold people like Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, and Attorney General Pam Bondi accountable. This is what separates us from the Democrats, mind you. The Democrats were silent about these files for 4.5 years. It is MAGA that is the reason why they're even being discussed today. But this conclusion is not satisfactory. And what makes us different than the left is we actually hold our people accountable. So I am holding the Trump Department of Justice accountable by making this video, and I will continue to speak on this subject, and I hope you will too. Thanks very much for watching. Subscribe to American Advocates for more.